What's up guys, Jay's 2 cents here, and if you just watched Corsair's live stream, then you'll know that we just announced the 7000D and the 7000X, the first full tower cases from Corsair that we've seen since the Obsidian series. But Jay, what about the 1000D? That thing was behemoth, whatever. No, that was a super tower. That's actually a designation above full tower. So let's take a look at the changes they've made to make the 7000D. I have a feeling that means I'm going to end up redoing my system here that I did in the 5000D in this case. NZXT's build is a quick and easy way to get a new gaming computer, and right now they are proud to announce expansion and availability to Australia, the Netherlands, France, and Italy. Build a gaming PC on your budget using the built-in configurator and see exactly how your favorite games will perform. And all builds are backed by the BLD Peace of Mind warranty. To get started building your next gaming PC, visit the BLD link in the description below. I think what they did was they took the 5000D and like Control-T'd and grabbed a corner and went. I think that's really what they did. But you know what? The other two we had were in white, so it'd be kind of nice to take a look at the black version of the case today. There we go. Full tower cases these days don't have to be completely gargantuan, because with an efficient layout inside, you don't have to make up for it with just the overall giant dimensions of the exterior. This one is a little weighty though. If there's one thing I know about George, Corsair George, he likes a big beefy case. And this one is obviously, it's designed and curated by George, and it's pretty obvious already. Ooh, I feel like the black, the texture is really nice on the, well, that's glass on that side, but powder coated finish. You can see it's got a nice, real nice even kind of a dusting effect to it, if you will. This is on a swivel door. So this kind of carries over from the 5000D. Door opens up. It's got a captive screw on the back so that you don't accidentally pop off your side doors. That also includes the tempered glass. Tempered glass is nice. It's ultra clear, doesn't scratch like plastic. However, it's more delicate. So pop that off like that. Dang, this door. Phil, feel this.
Am I gonna drop? Whoa!
That is, oh, magnetic filter on the side. But yeah, the thing is so beefy, man. Not only did they scale up the overall size, they scaled up the thickness. This one's got 3 C's. So this is a carryover also from the 5000D. That's a magnetic door that closes, hides away all of your cables and stuff. Right off the bat, you can see we've got 3 2.5-inch mounting drives or cages right here. So you can mount obviously 2.5-inch SSDs on there. You can mount things like RGB controllers or Commander Pros or whatever on this. They are captive screws. I like the little touches, like the yellow rubber piece. Oh, dude, that's what, the yellow rubber piece in there. Get a little bit of a touch of Corsair yellow. I want to do a throwback to my 900D build, which was black with yellow accents and yellow fluid. Because I feel like that would be just fun to be like, here we are almost 10 years later from when I built that system. So this is the airflow version. So what that means is that, dang, that thing sticks on there tight. What that means is it's gonna have the ventilation in the top and in the front, the mesh panels versus the solid glass panel. So the non-airflow is gonna have where this perforation is right here, it's gonna have a piece of solid tempered glass, same thing on the top. But because I'm the kind of person that goes, I want as much airflow as possible to the radiators and such, I like to have the airflow versions of the case. So just like the 5000D, this pops off, has the little rubber grommets on there and the little rubber tabs that will hold the panel together. Same thing for the front. This is just gonna pop off really easily, which makes you have easy, and it's, there we go, makes you have easy access to your filter, which is right here. So there's your dust filter. You see you can take that off in a matter of seconds to blow it out, clean it, wash it. I mean, it's about the same density as like a window screen. So it will cut down on your airflow just a little bit, but given the fact that you can fit 3 140 millimeter fans in the front, or a 420 millimeter radiator, or 4 120 millimeter fans, or a 480 millimeter radiator in the front, means that you are going to have a lot of airflow to overcome any of the potential restrictions in the front. So let me take off this guy. This is just a magnetic filter on the top. If you're using it as an exhaust, just ditch that. Now, if you remember in the 5000D, it had a cover right here, just like this does, but it came down and it sort of swooped like that. And one of the things that did was it took the airflow coming in the front and it gave it a nice gradual incline or a ramp to ramp up into the rest of the system. This has a cover just like that, obviously, but it's square because what we have on this particular case that we don't have on the 5000D is two 3.5-inch drive bays here, so you can fit up to 6 more drives, whether it be hard drives or SSDs, because as you can see with these sleds, these guys do have mounting provisions for 3.5-inch drive or the mounting screw holes for 2.5-inch drives. So you'd be able to mount plenty of SSDs in this, 3 here, potentially another 1 or 2 here, 6 there. So 10 drives before you ever have to bust out the double-sided tape. They include 2 140mm Corsair Airflow style fans. So here's that ramp I was talking about in the front. So you can, if you want to take the drive cage out like I already showed, and then put in this so you can maintain that nice smooth airflow like we've already talked about. So the nice thing about this particular layout is because you don't have to account for fan thickness and then radiator thickness if you're doing a push configuration, then you can go with like a 60mm radiator and really fill this out with a nice thick rad if you want. And you use this guy here obviously to give you the clearance. You could use this, you do have some thickness there that you can play with, but obviously if you want more and you remove that drive cage, you can use this guy right here. But we have the same little cover right here that you found in the 5000D Airflow and the X with the 700. And this is designed to give you nice hideaway for your cables. It does put a little bit of a tight bend on the 24 pin and any other cables coming through here. So you want to keep that in mind. If you are running like a EATX, like a true EATX board, one that's really wide, or even an EEATX, then you're going to want to make sure that this cover doesn't interfere with that, because then you might not have enough clearance there. But if you're running any sort of a motherboard, like say what EVGA does, where they take that 24 pin and they make it a 90 degree where it plugs straight in, then you may not even see your cables at all right there, which is kind of good and bad, because if you have sleeved cables, custom sleeved cables, then you're gonna wanna show them off. But if you can't see them, then obviously you can't show them off. So one of the things I just learned is by taking off the 2 front screws, this first piece actually comes off. So now if you are running an EATX board and you don't have the clearance you need to fit your 24 pin, this piece will come off, giving you the access to the grommets, but retaining this cover right here to hide any sort of cables going on back here if you're not going to be using the motherboard tray mounting option. So these are literally just held on with screws, which is, you know, one of the things Corsair was always just big on, especially with the Obsidian series, is using rivets sparingly. Pop rivets are nice if you're never going to adjust or, you know, modify anything. But by using standard, I think they're M32 or maybe M3 or M4 screws. Did I say M32? 3/32. Geez, I can't American anymore. Then it gives you the option to be able to easily get all this stuff adjusted and moved around as you want. So you've got 2 screws right here and then 2 thumb screws on the front side. And then once you get those off, you can just slide this back. And I think we have some cables zip tied to it. Oh no, they're just fan cables running through it. So if you want to take that off, you have to undo the fans and reroute them through there, because they've got them going through the little cable management holes, which admittedly is why they're there, but yeah. All right, so once you get that off, then you can take off the little front cover here. I'd probably recommend screwing this back together, that way you don't lose the screws for that. But you can see the amount of modularity we're sort of showing here is pretty nuts. Now the front is also held on by some captive screws. And these are the types of designs that I just love, because what this allows you to do is to just take it out, get your radiator and everything mounted to it, and then, they're not captive screws by the way, but you can take it out, get your rad and everything mounted to it, get your fans on there, get it all nice and neatly cable managed, zip tied together and cables out of the way. Then you can mount it back in the case, because working on it in a case sort of stinks. So you can see right there, we can fit 3 140s no problem, or or a 480 millimeter radiator. I can't even say the number right anymore because it's been so long since we've had cases that will like natively support it in the mainstream market, not like super expensive high-end custom cases. Now you can see we have access to, look at the size of this thing. See, it's crazy. But you know, ultimately, like I said, it doesn't feel that much bigger than a 5000D. So there is the motherboard tray mounting bracket thing. I'm just calling it motherboard tray because that's the plane it's on, if you will. So now that we've got it pretty much naked, can you see the possibilities for water cooling in this thing? So let's get a 480 rad and a 420, do I even have a 420? Let's get big radiators and see how they fit. Do you know how long it's been since I've been able to take this and go like this in a case without mods? Overcompensating's back. So the motherboard tray bracket thing, if you will, as you can see, only fits 120 millimeter fans and radiator size. So up to a 480, so you can do 120, 240, 360, 480. And as you can see, it fits on that with absolutely no problem whatsoever. Look at this, on the backside too, if you wanted to run the fittings through it. It's like they made the opening perfectly the right size so that the fittings can pass through without having to drill any sort of holes or pass through holes. Everything lines up beautifully. The front, as we already showed, does fit both 140 and 120s. So if you wanted to fit this on the front, that's like I was saying. If you have the opening set so that you're running the big gapper right there, I don't know, called gapper, I guess, whatever you want to call it. You just sort of push this through like that. You can see now the fans take up the thickness within the bracket so they don't push it out into the system anymore. Look how much room there still is with this thick radiator. You would still have room to put a pump right there and fit a long graphics card. That's pretty amazing. So one thing you're gonna wanna keep in mind though too, obviously, is with the thickness of the radiator, you might start having some interference with the top part because the fans and the rad do have to hang down. If I were gonna do this particular build, I'd probably do a 360, a 480 in the front, and then leave the back with no fans, because the last thing I want to do is create any sort of crazy airflow pattern by adding fans right next to a radiator. That's in a perpendicular fashion. So let's see how this fits with standard thick rads. So this guy's a little dirty. This one's the old Skunkworks rads, but as you can see now, if we go ahead and mount this in here, now we potentially won't have an issue for mounting anything on the top. So what I think I want to do real quick is I want to go ahead and mount these down to the brackets, and then I want to see how much room we actually have up there. Before I do that, let's talk about the top bracket for a second. This is awesome. Look at all the offset options they give you. Why is that important? Because if you're running a front radiator that is set in the center or slightly offset like the front bracket does, it pushes the rad to the glass a little bit, that side. It means that you can keep these on the same plane so that if you want to bring a 90-degree tube down and run to the other radiator, it's not trying to go at some crazy angle because this is offset more than the front. So you have all these offset options, which is awesome to see. And then on the front bracket, if you see the 120, like I said, it's not centered. You do have the same mounting options if you want with the front, so it's the same as the top. But I chose to move it offset just a little bit. That way we can make sure we have clearance for any high or tall VRM heat sinks that you find on motherboards today, especially if you're building a high-end system. If you're water cooling, it's probably a higher end system, which means you probably have a big VRM heat sink, which means if you're gonna push everything towards the side of the glass and the top mount forces you to center it, well, now you can make sure they're on the same exact plane. That way it's easier to do your tubing runs. Little things like that are when it's obvious that George designed this, because he is a diehard water cooler like I am. And as you can see, this is gonna allow you to get all of that adjusted perfectly. So now by holding this up, I can see I've got this adjusted pretty much all the way that way, which means now I'm gonna be able to get it all nice and on the same plane. Which means I also just realized I put one screw on one, another screw on another, so now it's diagonal. So now I obviously have to fix that. So yeah, the 140 millimeter fans are still on here, even though I have a 480 rad. That's just, well, I guess you could do that if you wanted. I mean, they use different mounting holes. In fact, I've never tried that before to see if that would help with overall airflow. I assume that this might help air go around the rad. This is just so I can get it mounted up there. But as you can see, that rad is mounted. We might end up having a little bit of interference up top right here. What I probably needed to do was actually flip that rad over so the fittings are on the bottom. I have a feeling that's going to end up being my downfall with this one. So here's one of the Corsair Xr5s, which we think would actually be best to put a 360 on the top and a 480 in the front, because then you still have some room and you're not dealing with any sort of interference. I'd probably still run those fittings on the front though, on the bottom, as you can see, that way they're not interfering. But once you put the fans on there, it'll be like that. So yeah, I would definitely run fittings on the bottom and the front. Nice thing about a custom water loop, it's easy to get the air out even if the fittings are on the bottom. Then look at all the additional room that you still have for your motherboard. This is essentially where the top of the motherboard is going to be, because here's the top screws. You got your pass-through grommets here for things like RGB wires, fan headers, EPS power. That's pretty nuts. And then if you wanted to go crazy, you could put a 120 millimeter fan in the back too. All right, so the rest of this, you've got a little window here. That's plexi, so you're not going to want to go wiping that too hard. You don't want to scratch it, but that is plexiglass. This will allow you to, if you have some power supplies these days even have a little display on the side, so that would be able to show the display, or it could just show some RGB power supplies exist now, so you could have the RGB showing if you wanted. But one thing you can also do with these, let's say you have really nice SSD drives that you want to show off, you could move these from the back tray to right here on the front, which would allow you to then just have those on display. And if you look behind each one of these brackets right here, they have a grommet or a pass-through, so that you can have the power and the SATA plug go right off the back and have nice, clean cable management. I feel like the possibilities on this are pretty much only limited by your imagination. And this is without taking out any Dremels or anything like that. Now this one here does not have any built-in case lighting. So if you're gonna wanna do case lighting, you're gonna have to start running either strips or use Corsair fans that have nice bright LEDs, because I feel like the Corsair fans have the brightest LEDs on the market, if you wanna know the truth. One other thing I forgot to mention here is this does have vertical mount capabilities. They give you this bracket right here. You got this bracket that will allow you to take out some of these PCI Express expansion slots, and then you can put this in there, which will then give you the proper vertical mounting for the PCI Express mounting spot on a graphics card, so that those are flipped 90 degrees. And then you have there's two holes right here, which is where your PCIe riser card would go. And you can buy that separately from Corsair. It doesn't come with this case, that's a separate addition or optional piece. But then you would be able to have that mounted there and have your vertical graphics card pushed back. Because if you're noticing, a lot of companies will put the vertical mount really close to the glass. And the problem with that is then if you are using an air-cooled card, with cards these days being 2.5 to 3 slots thick, the closer you get those fans to the glass, the worse it's gonna perform. So you need to have plenty of airflow or volume of air or source of air in front of those fans to get maximum cooling, which by pushing this back this way is gonna allow you to get that done. Cable management, that's the other thing. Corsair gives you these Velcro straps and this channel to be able to have all of your items routed through there, so they're up and out of the way. I cut the zip tie here. Normally this is zip tied up there, so that you can keep things nice and tidy. With this track right here, you do have a built-in 6-fan hub. So to control this, you can control all your fans off your motherboard header if you want by just taking this, this is the PWM header right here, and plugging this into any PWM or 3-pin power as well on your motherboard, or heck, potentially even your graphics cards. Some graphics cards now have a fan header on them so that you can have the system ramp up speed when the game kicks on. Your GPU goes into 3D mode, which produces way more heat in your system usually than your CPU. So you've got this header which attaches to the motherboard. In terms of connectivity, on the right, you've got your reset button, you've got a headphone microphone combo jack, USB-C, 4 USB 3.0 super speeds, as well as your power button. And then you can see up here the mount again for the top radiator. So that is our quick unboxing and kind of a first look at the 7000D. The first full tower case that Corsair has made since the Obsidian series first launched back with like the 750D or the 800D and the 750D and the 900D. So it's kind of nice. It's funny with this trend of so many manufacturers going with small form factor and SFF these days. it's kind of nice to see someone be like, you know what, we're making a big case again. And not like to be confused with the 1000D, because that was really just like, let's just get crazy with it. This is much more manageable. It really doesn't take up much more room on your desk than a 5000D. It's a little bit wider, just a little bit taller, and just a little bit longer. So if you can fit, it's kind of funny, this to me doesn't feel as big as the full tower cases that we're used to seeing, but I feel like this is gonna be a fun one to build in. I kind of want to do a build in it. I'm tempted to take all the stuff out of my white 5000D that we did and then rebuild it in my 7000D. So if you guys want to see that build, of course, maybe that'd be the perfect opportunity to do the glass bending we talked about wanting to do. If you guys remember, I showed you guys I learned how to bend glass tubing. So maybe that'd be the perfect opportunity to get glass in here. I kind of want to recreate the original black and yellow skunkworks. So if you guys want to see that, comment down below that you'd love to see that build, or hit me up on Twitter. And don't forget, we do have a massive giveaway going on right now, which you guys could get RTX 3090, 11900K, motherboard, power supply, obviously the GPU, a keyboard, a mouse, like the ultimate PC upgrade, including a bunch of stuff that you can't even really go and buy. Look down in the comments below, you guys will find a link to the giveaway. You also find links to learn more about the 7000D or the 7000X, because there are variations of this case. As always, guys, thanks for hanging out with me today, and we'll see you in the next one.